Alright guys, welcome to section number 2 of the course here, or advanced section 2, whatever, same thing. So now that we've gotten through basically the essentials, understanding what an SC is, understanding what inefficiency is, now we get to look into just additional tools that we can add on to those to just overall just help you understand price better. And step one of that is volume. And why do I use volume? For one, it's very effective with Wyckoff, which is what we'll be discussing in the advanced 3 section. Two, it's a good little reference to have when you know how to use it, and we're gonna get to that right now actually. So the volume that I use is just your basic where is it, indicators? It's just your basic, you just look up volume, and it's the first one. That's the one I use, and these are the colors that I use. So I haven't really touched up on indicators and their significance and all that. And I personally, I'm not gonna say they're worthless, but I don't use them as a main influencer of my any type of bias or anything. The only reason why I use volume is, one is to help entries, and two is to support Wyckoff schematics. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I'm just gonna get through essentially the ways that I use it, and etc etc etc. So before we get into that, I do want you guys to know that any indicator, the reason why I don't fully rely on them is because there's a misconception about them. And for one, they're delayed. So you have to wait until closures to see the result of that of that indicator, whether it's RSI, stochastic, MACD, Ichimoku, anything, volume, anything. You have to wait for the closures for you to get the actual result from that indicator. So, and also, indicators, doesn't matter what it is, it won't tell you price direction, it'll tell you price behavior. And that is something that people heavily sleep on, because if you can understand behavior at a point of interest, then your probabilities of winning a trade just increase significantly, because not only are you being supported by the technicals that we use, but now price is giving you behaviors that it wants to turn direction. And that is through something I call price diminishment, volume shifts, etc etc etc. And here I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Example 1, right, this is USD MXN. Is actually a trade that Sergio took, and he wanted me to review it for the team. And so here basically, obviously we have an uptrend, we have a break of structure here, right? So now any type of pullback is your entry for lower. And so what we see here, for one, is this large spike up, right? Notice there's no wick, it's pretty much all body. That shows that is a sponsored candle, right? So we measure the 50% of that, and then we measure this inefficiency that's present there. And obviously you see price reject that inefficiency and then give out for a massive move, right? 30 to 1. And so pay attention to the volume here, right? Notice how price is continuing to make a higher high here, but the volume is not present. And what I mean by not present is that it's not supporting it, right? And this, we'll dive in deeper into this when we talk about law of effort in Wyckoff. But for now, this is just, I want you to understand that this is a type of divergence, right? Whereas there is bullish movement but unsupporting bullish volume. So that's showing me that it's creating a type of unsustainability, and that's giving me that behavior that I just spoke about that price wants to reverse. And that is, honestly, almost all there is to volume is just understanding that correlation. And we'll dive in deeper with understanding momentum and comparing that into, volume, and etc etc etc. So example number 2, this is actually how I caught that GJ Swing Reversal that a lot of people like saw was when I sold it at this high here, and it went for like 1,000 pips to the downside. It actually went for even 2,000 pips. I just didn't hold that long, but this is exactly how I got it. So I actually have every single markup is in. It's going to be in the Discord in a section where I basically post all of my marked up charts, and this is going to be there. So as you can see, when we got that Brexit spike up, right, we see, oh, massive momentum, buy, we're bullish forever, right? Negative, because look, notice, right, that there's more bullish volume before that full spike up, and that's due to the fact that we mitigated and et cetera, et cetera. We mitigated before, and I showed you guys this setup in one of the previous videos, and where we got that perfect reentry, right? So that bullish volume that's showing here is just to support that continuation to the upside. But when we actually get the follow through, right, there is no supporting volume, no supporting bullish volume. So once you realize that, you see price start to slow down and create that unsustainability that I'm speaking of, to where now if you add other confluences through the form of SC inefficiencies, we can essentially get a mega snipe, and that's what this was, right? Unsupported volume creates an unsupported direction, right? And for the last example, you're seeing here EURUSD. This is how we essentially see, a trend shift, right? We see price give a reaction to the upside, and now notice it's struggling to come down, right? And we're going to also dive in deeper into this and understanding momentum, where notice how fast this impulse was to the upside and how it's struggling to come back down. And notice there is no more strong bearish volume, right? Especially at the peak here, at like literally the bottom of it. Notice that there is no unsupporting volume. There's no supporting volume, I'm sorry, right? So that creates that unsustainability that we're talking about. And as you can see from that peak there, right, now we see the shift. This is what I would call a volume shift, when there's unsustainable volume. And now you see that intraday BOS here. But if you would have been able to catch an entry here, due to the fact that the behavior that the candles are showing you, right, you just caught a trend shift here, intraday break of structure. Now it's just a mitigation here, mitigation play, and you continue higher, consecutive higher lows, meaning we are in an uptrend now, right? And all of that started because of the unsustainability from price here. And that's all I want you guys to understand about that. Unsustainability will more than likely mean that something is a fake move, right? So that's what I want you guys to get out of this video. Next video, we should be speaking on momentum and then correlating the two and just adding some cool little tricks with that. So yeah, guys.